Yeah.
So.
And I've got my phone here, so if you need to text me offline or, send some message on the aside. I don't know. I think you can also do that on the screen here with Zoom, but I haven't done that. My keyboard is way far away.
Totally understandable. And all through tonight, you'll see me move things around, because I'll sit back and go, well, no, I need the mouse. So you'll see me move forward. And it's just a giggle about it at this point. So, Mistress Dairine.
Hello.
Everybody that's tuning in tonight, we are having a sit-down chat with Mistress Dairine. Pronounce your last name for me so I don't make a muck of it.
Morowigan. It means daughter of the great pirate.
Awesome. And how long have you been in the SCA?
Oh, forever. 35 years.
Really?
Maybe 38. I'm not sure.
What brought you into the SCA?
No, you wouldn't remember those days. Back in the 80s, Sir Jakob and I were looking for some kind of a club that we could join that provided something for the whole family, and that it wasn't one of those things where the women did their thing and the men did their thing and they never really did anything together, like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. So my son was 9 and my daughter was 6 at the time. So we wanted something that the kids could do too, and they wouldn't feel left out. And we didn't want to feel like everything was just centered around the children. Now that's a big, tall order. And we looked at a lot of different clubs. And I was heavily into art at the time. I belonged to a gallery group, and I found out that they were having an art show down in Bisbee. So Sir Jakob and I and the kids all got in the car and went down to Bisbee for this art show. And guess what? The SCA was doing a demo in Bisbee. And we were so fascinated by it. We spent most of our time at this art show watching the fighters. And then we talked to the participants, and there was Sir Justin, Viscountess Victoria, Hastini, Viscountess Hastini. I can't remember all the other people that were there, but we talked to all of them. Oh yes, there's Baron Otto. And we spent a lot of time talking to Baron Otto. And he said something that really stuck in my mind. He said that it's not just fantasy. The SCA is a place where you can be more honorable than the world allows you to be. Oh. And I couldn't get that out of my head. The kids had such a good time. My son was actually dressed up in his Halloween costume as a knight. My daughter was wearing a dress that was all buttoned up the front like a coat hardy, but it wasn't long. It was short, just normal length. And they were the only kids that entered into a costume contest, and they won. Especially my son. Oh, I was going to show you a picture of him. I don't know if if I try to find it, it'll take forever, but I put it up on Facebook a while back. And if you remember, my son is Duke Walrick now, but at the time he was just a kid, 9 years old, and he loved it very much. And so we all, on the way home from Bisbee, talked about this, and we said, that's the club we want to join.
Nice. Very nice. So I have a question from the YouTube chat.
Mm-hmm.
Sigrid is asking where the origin of your name came from.
Well, like so many people that join the SCA, I had a very romantic view of pirates and Irish. I think that I have a lot of Irish and Scottish heritage, and I think some French. And so I came up with an idea that my persona was the daughter of a pirate, and that I went pirating with him, and that he was, you know how in Ireland, a lot of the Vikings, they invaded and they colonized a part of Ireland near, what is it, Londonderry, Ireland? Dublin. I think it's around Dublin and Londonderry. Anyhow, that area was all Viking. And so that's where I put my persona, and that we raided the English coast. And I actually applied for the name Dairine, daughter of the great pirate, Dairine O'Morwigan. So the last name was supposed to be Morwigan. Well, when I finally, after 3 years, got all my name and my heraldry approved, it took forever. The heraldry came back, Dairine More O'Hwigan, which actually translates as Dairine the Great, daughter of the pirate.
That's awesome. I love it.
So I just went with it.
So what is your heraldry?
If you hold on a second, I'll get it for you.
Okay.
Now,
Running a hobby horse.
look at that.
Asking a baby doll.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And now look at how the negative space around this white unicorn turns into the positive space of this unicorn. Now, the story behind this is, do you remember Master Baron Thane Steppen?
Yes.
Well, he was teaching a heraldry class and kind of a newcomer's class when I first got into the SCA. And it's kind of a heraldry hut, I guess. But we also made garb. As you know, he just sort of did a little bit of everything. So I went to that, and we were talking about how to submit your heraldry. And I had this idea for a running greyhound, and I was going to use green and white and all that. And I was having a hard time getting ideas for using this greyhound that weren't already taken. And he says, well, don't worry, at least you didn't pick a unicorn. Nobody can get unicorns anymore, because every single way that a unicorn can be done has been done, and you'll get it turned down. And I turned to him and I said, challenge accepted.
Very nice.
That's awesome.
And the thing is, I didn't even really care about unicorns. That wasn't one of my things, you know? Some people just gotta have a unicorn.
Yes.
Well, not me. But anyhow, I worked on it for quite a while. And this is one of the reasons why it took 3 years for my heraldry to get passed, it's very hard to document this.
Yeah.
I found 3 examples in period. I knew there had to be examples because this is like a playing card. But they didn't start doing this with playing cards until the 19th century.
Okay.
And if you recall all the pictures of period playing cards, they just have a king or a queen. They're not up and down like that.
Right.
But I thought that they were in period. So that's why I was so sure that they had something. But I did find 3 examples. And one of them was definitely in the 15th century.
Nice.
But it was of a leaf. Let's see.
Okay.
It's done like that.
Yeah.
And then I found a horse, and then I found a lion. And the lion is like the faces were, you know, like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Not like this.
Right.
And the horses were also like this, like a yin and yang.
Right.
But the leaves were like this. So I used those three as my examples, and they couldn't turn me down, but they put in the documentation, we'll allow this time, but we're not going to do it anymore.
That's wonderful. I love it. You got a disclaimer on your heraldry. That's awesome.
That's even better.
So His Excellency is over here scrolling because somewhere in his multitude of pictures, he has a picture of Duke Ulrich.
Well, Majesty Walrus.
And at the time, it was His Majesty running
Yeah, yeah.
around on a hobby horse.
Oh,
He's trying to find
In
it.
crown. I think it's very appropriate, so I apologize for this in advance. But we got the picture. Yeah.
So, all right. So we're, as a lot of us know, you do some phenomenal artwork. You do
well, thank you. Thank you.
pottery. You bake. You know, it's funny because for me, I'm not normally one that works in a feast kitchen.
Yeah, yeah.
I working, you know, that year you did investiture feast for Tiernan and Sevilla. I was working the
Gosh,
grill for
that
you.
was a huge feast.
It was. You know, I brought the transformer out, and for those that do not know what the transformer is, I have a large 55-gallon barrel, half barrel grill
Mhm.
that goes
Oh,
from
yeah. Yep.
to a grill to a smoker. And so I had brought that out because Mr. Dairine had more chickens than I'll ever care to admit to that needed to be grilled up. And so I was very happy to be her grill master for the day. I had the grill, keep me with Dr. Peppers, and I was rolling. And that's because I wasn't inside the kitchen. So I was good with that. But I remember at the end of the day, when we had finished grilling up everything you needed to have grilled
Yeah.
up, I remember walking in the kitchen and just realizing that you have one of the most well-run machines in a kitchen I have ever seen. And for those of you that have not had an opportunity to try some of her food, oh Lord, pay Sable Milrand a visit one day passing through.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't, I think that those days of doing great big feasts are behind me now, but that was a lot of fun. I worked on my feast for a very long time, for like 2 months before the events, and I had everything on a Gantt chart up on the wall with every process in the kitchen that has to be done, who's going to do it, what time they have to start doing it, what machines they need, or ovens or whatever. The whole thing is out, and there's papers up on the wall, and we keep looking back at them, and everything just works the way it should when you do that.
Oh, I remember, you know, seeing. I won't ever forget the time I had to run over at Australia War and ask you if you had any butter, because I can't even remember what on earth I was. Oh, I was making stuffed sopapillas in camp, and
You need butter.
you need butter.
Yeah,
Stuffed
yeah.
sopapillas don't work without butter. And I was like, okay, do I get dressed and run to town and get butter? And I'm like, I'm right in the middle of cooking. And I remember Kinneberga is the one that said, hey, have you asked Mistress Dairine? She comes to war with everything. And I kind of sat there for a minute. I was like, well, no. And she goes, oh, trust me, you got to check out that kitchen. So I went over, and I'm like, sheepishly, I forgot my butter. She's like, oh no, come on to the kitchen. And I go, walking through the kitchen and I suddenly am going,
Yeah.
I want a kitchen like this. It blew me away. And I don't think it was butter. I think it was cooking grease of some sort. It was something that most people don't come to war with. But
I think it was ghee.
I think so.
Ghee, which is clarified butter.
Yes, yes. And so, but I remember leaving your kitchen and I went back to my own kitchen and I'm like, we're going to have to fix this. I need a setup. And look at that. I need a better kitchen setup. Now here I am 15 years later and I have,
Rain can't get into the meeting.
oh yeah, she's
Trying to get in.
messing with the YouTube for some reason.
And Sigrid also.
Let's look here.
It was popping up that Sigrid was having trouble.
All right.
Speaking of borrowing things, I've got a funny story.
Sure.
At Estrella War about 3 years ago, Cosmo. No, not Cos. What's his name? It's Cosmo. Yeah, Cosmo. Okay, yeah. Cosmo came over and he wanted to borrow some ketchup. And we, Jake tells this story so much better than I do. You keep popping up there. So
trying to help with the chat.
okay, so anyhow, we needed to borrow some ketchup. And so we went, no, he came over to borrow some ketchup from us, right? He came over to borrow some ketchup from us and we gave him some ketchup. So the next year he was returning the ketchup and he brought us some little packets of ketchup from McDonald's or someplace. And we took those little packets of ketchup and we put them up on a flagpole.
Oh.
And then we took it over to their camp and we presented it to them.
Brilliant.
So then the next year they brought us some ketchup. Like, look, we only gave you little bitty ones. We're going to give you the right size ones. So they brought us a big bottle of ketchup. It was not just a big bottle. It was a big can of ketchup. It was, no kidding, this big around and this tall a ketchup. And we told them that we felt like we had been properly respected then.
That's awesome.
Uncle, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I remember being in such awe of your kitchen. Matter of fact, you know, as I started building my kitchen up, one of the things I always kept in mind is, oh, well, Sable Milrine does it this way. And that was real efficient. And, you know, it worked, you know, to build a better kitchen. And I just remember being in your kitchen inspired me to do better. And it was.
Oh. Well, I have always had a lot of envy for your great big grill.
The Transformer.
We do most of our cooking in Dutch ovens, and we have really gotten good. I shouldn't say we. Sir Jacob has gotten really, really good at cooking in Dutch ovens. And we've had, now was it David that made the Dutch oven table, or?
No, Kelly Ashcraft.
Do you remember Kelly Ashcraft?
Oh yeah.
The armorer? Well, he made a special table for us that folds up like a suitcase. It's like two halves, like a briefcase or something, and it folds up and we store the legs inside. And when we get to camp, we open this up, put the legs on it. It's got places where you can hang utensils on the outside. Then we fill it up with sand and we put the coals on top of that and then put the Dutch ovens on top of that. And we can put 4 Dutch ovens on there. And if we need more Dutch ovens than that, we start stacking them. And we can do a whole feast with that table. And we can cook a lot of food, I'll tell you. And then we've got 3 grills that have 2 grills on them. Most of the time we only use 2, but if we have to, we can put up 3. And most important, we've got hot and cold running water in our camp. We have a boat. It's called a shower pump setup that is also in a box that looks like a suitcase. And we just open that up. We put a marine battery in there and hook the whole thing up and hook it up to a barrel of water. And then we've got a hose that goes into our tubs, and we can turn on hot water or cold water from that hose.
Very nice.
It is wonderful. So we can wash our dishes or get water ready for a shower. We also have it pumped right into the shower, and we put up a shower in our camp so we don't have to go to the shower trucks.
Very nice.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
We got Golda, the Sable kitchen is wild. I love that. I love that. So we've got some questions rolling in.
Mhm.
So let's talk about your scrolls.
I have an example here of one of my scrolls so that you can see some of my artwork. Let's see if I can get it in focus. Can you see it?
Watercolor?
It is gouache, but sometimes I use it in a watercolor technique. That's what they did in period. I've got, here's some more of it so you can see the whole thing.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you. In period, there was no such thing as gouache. Gouache was a technique, not a paint.
Okay.
And what they had was tempera paint. And that meant that you had to mix something with it to make it work. If you mixed it with oil, it was oil tempera. If you mixed it with water, it was water tempera. So what we use is water tempera. And if you use it very thick, then and add some chalk to it or something to make it opaque, it's gouache, as that's what we call it nowadays. And if you use it without any thing to make it opaque, and you use it in a kind of a fluid way, that's watercolor. So in period, they did not see any difference between the two.
Okay.
Oh, I
They
see.
just used them. If you look closely at the artwork that was done in period, it will you'll see both techniques in the same painting.
So Rain is asking, where do you get your inspiration for your scrolls?
Oh, I have downloaded so many books of hours and bookmarked museums. I hardly have any pictures of my family on my phone. It's all illumination and Maiolica. And I look through it all whenever I'm looking for inspiration. I'll spend a lot of time with the British Museum, the British Library. Right now, and for the last couple of years, I have been very deep into a book called the Bible of Borso d'Este. And I've been doing, it's a 2-volume Bible, 600 pages in each Bible. Every page has beautiful illumination on it. It's, you know, like a Gutenberg Bible, 2 columns of text on each page, artwork all the way around. It's the most gorgeous book probably ever produced. And I am in love with that. And I've been taking almost all of my inspiration from that one book for the last couple of years.
Nice.
Okay.
Now, for those of us that are not scribe oriented, what is Maiolica?
Maiolica is pottery. That's, the red, here's another piece of it. You
Oh,
see that kind of red clay, or it could be a white clay, but it's a lower temperature clay than what you see nowadays is stoneware. And that's much higher temperature, and that's, like 19th, 20th century stuff. But in period, they used a lower wood-fired clay. And then they decorated it with lots of geometric designs, foliage designs, pictures of women and saints, and religious iconography. And there's a real definite style to it. They also, it started with the Arabs. Well, actually, in Arabic countries, they imported porcelain from China, and they tried to replicate it, but they couldn't make porcelain. They didn't have kilns that could go high enough temperature. So they said, if we can't make the clay white, then we're going to put white paint on it, white glaze. And then they did, the blue comes from cobalt, and they have the biggest cobalt mines are in Turkey and Afghanistan. I think it's Afghanistan, which is quite a long ways away from Turkey. So, but it's on the Silk Road. Anyhow, they had control of the cobalt, and they used so it was white, a white glaze with blue designs on it. And then they started doing all kinds of other things. And that's why there's a lot of geometric designs in Maiolica, because it came from the Arabs. And then by the time the Renaissance came along, they had invented many more colors. And in Italy, they just went crazy. And of course, in Italy, you could put human figures, and there's lots of Maiolica with human figures on it.
okay.
Here's another little cup that I did.
Oh, I like
beautiful.
that.
Arches. It's just a real sweet little cup there.
So, got a question on the chat. What are the top 3 favorite scrolls you have done? And then I'll tell you.
I'll tell you, the last scroll I did, the next scroll I did, and the laurel scroll that my daughter-in-law did for me.
Okay, so Golda asked that question. So now my question is Golda, did you know what her answer was?
She didn't.
So
I bet she was thinking it was the 3 that I did for her.
oh, okay.
I said, I don't know if I did 2 or 3 for her, but she's got a bunch of my scrolls.
So back to the scroll work. The scrolls are very, very lovely.
More than.
The Pasanki eggs. Tell us about those. I just, one of these days, maybe one of these days I'll get lucky, but those things are awesome.
Well, I think you'll need to talk to Baroness Anya. This is a Pasanki egg that Baroness Anya made. That is a scroll on here for the god-awful Grail tourney. Let's see, what does it say here? For her tireless and unstinting service to our barony, we are most pleased to grant companionship in the Order of the Boar or to Dairine Moro Wigan, etc.
That is, oh, those
And so this is what a Pasanki egg is. It's not painted, it's dyed.
Oh.
And in this case, this is an ostrich egg that Master Medrick gave to me, and then I gave it to Anya, and she decorated it. And I think that he got the ostrich egg from a relative of his that raises ostriches.
That's so cool. They're gorgeous. I have drooled over those for a very long time.
So I have made a lot of Pasanki eggs with, I should say, under Anya's tutelage. And I am afraid I don't have any of mine here because I took them all to my mom.
Fair enough. So what is an art form you're interested in that you have never explored?
Oh, I would say jewelry making.
Hmm.
That is hard and you need a lot of equipment, and I've done a little bit, and I was going to show you some examples of stuff I had done, some enameling, and I've got an enamel kiln. I haven't used it yet, but I have one. I have an old enamel kiln that I gave to my daughter-in-law. That of course is Duchess Cecilia. But I have a new, almost brand new enameling kiln and never used it. So maybe one of these days, I have all the little enamels in the little jars, and I've got these copper thingies, and I've made a couple of little things with the old enamel kiln, but to actually do rings and, you know, nicely made pieces that have repoussé or I don't know, all the fancy stuff.
Faceted jewels and stuff.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm kind of, I have stuck my toes in those waters. I think I'm about to the ankle deep yet, but about a month ago, there was that whole thought process of, oh, I want an enameling kiln.
Yeah.
And
What?
then I had that moment where I'm like, just got, for Christmas, I got a melting pot, you know,
Oh,
a high
yeah.
furnace. And
Okay. For doing pewter work,
No brass.
brass and
brass.
bronze.
Well, yeah. See, Sir Jakob has puttered around with pewter, but to do anything, he made one item out of silver, and that was it was a battle axe for the uh, war general of warlord of the Estrella War.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he got all the kit to do that with the sand and everything, and he made a really nice pendant for a necklace, but hasn't done much since then.
It takes a lot of work. So the last thing I
Yeah.
was casting is I had done a couple of golden needles for scrolls, actually.
The medallion for it.
Little needles.
They were actually needles that I cast in bronze. And then I now, of course, I can't get full scroll text on it because the work surface is so, but I engraved the recipient's name, the date, and the crown's name. You know,
Well, I think that would look really cool if you put it, you know, wax, you know, and attached it to a big old scroll.
oh
That's a good
yeah,
idea.
that I can handle. The engraving almost brutalized me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have Sigrid over here telling me, Your Excellency, you don't need another thing. Sam,
Yes, yes. See, now when you talk about, is there some other art form that you'd like to try? I'm thinking like a hole in my head.
with every
I,
art form comes
I really feel like at this point, I am a jack of so many different trades that I need to concentrate on just one or two. I would like to get back into doing myolica again. Oh, my kiln broke down quite a few years ago. We got it fixed, and I have done a couple of things since then, but not much. It's a big, you know, a lot of my stuff has gotten dried out, and I've been doing some things at Osney's, but I have not really gotten back into doing myolica in the numbers that I used to do it. I would pump out 2 or 3 items a week back in the day. And I haven't done that in a long time. Mainly because I've really been concentrating on scrolls and on cooking. And I brought a loaf of bread to show you. This is sourdough bread. I've been making lots of sourdough bread during the pandemic. Seems like I'm not the only person in the country that's been doing that, because it's very hard to find flour of the kind that I want. And another thing that I've been doing is studying period cookbooks. Like this one is called The Opera of Bartolomeo Scappi. And you'd think that it's, opera like singing, but it's not. The word opera actually means the great work. It could be any kind of a work would be your opera.
Okay.
So, doing a suit of armor is an opera. So anyhow, this book here is by a guy that was the cook for 2 different popes and a bunch of different cardinals. So he's really super good at it. And he wanted to give all of his knowledge to his apprentice. So he wrote this huge book. It was actually like 5 or 6 books long, and it's been translated and put into a book now that you can buy on Amazon, and it has some great recipes in it. And I spent a lot of time just looking at the recipes and kind of thinking up what they would taste like. And they don't have a lot of measurements to them, but some, enough that you can kind of figure them out. And this is another book that was written a little bit later. It's just a little bit out of period. It's called La Dairine's Cooking. And it's got a rooster on the front because La Dairine means rooster, and that was his nickname. The cook's name was the Rooster.
That's
Or you know what that another way of saying that is.
yes.
And that it's actually 3 books in one. This is a book of cookery, a pastry chef, and a French the French confectioner. So it's got confections, which is like jams and jellies and candy and pastries and all that. And then there's one that's just all about pastries, and that includes things like empanadas and meat pies. So when they talk about pastry, it's not just pies and cakes.
Nice.
So, and of course, it's got all of, in the regular cookbook, it's got all of the meat dishes and everything. This guy was born just slightly out of period, but the type of cooking didn't change very much for hundreds of years. So it's okay to use that book. And so I've been reading them a lot lately.
So, now over the years, I have seen you go through a variety of different style garbs. What is your favorite period?
Oh boy. I would say that to look at it on other people would be your Swabian, your German, South German style, with the big hats with the feathers and the low cut gowns, the big chains and cinched waist. Well, I was very heavy for a very long time, so I couldn't wear that style, but I liked looking at it on other people. Though actually I have seen quite a lot of young large ladies wearing that style, and it looks good on them. I tried making something, it's horrid. And I said, I'm not going to make one until I lose weight. Now I've lost weight and I haven't made anything. So bad, Laurel.
So what is your favorite style on you? Or is that
Okay, so on me, I like to wear these nice, easy, loose dresses.
Yeah.
That you don't have to wear a corset or a girdle or anything under. Although I think that I'll probably make something for fancy events
Very
in the
good.
future.
Awesome.
Yep. Are you finding staying inspired to do your art during the pandemic is difficult?
Extremely. I am not being inspired. It takes, like when you go to a kingdom level event and you see people in their finest garb, you see the gorgeous scrolls that are given out and the jewelry, the crowns, and you see how much people appreciate them. And it makes you want to make flags and tents and all of the stuff that we have that gives beauty and inspiration. And you come back from an event and you're just recharged.
Yes.
So this is something that I have found very difficult, not only missing my friends, which I miss horribly, but missing that inspiration from seeing what other people make with their own hands.
I completely relate on that
Mhm.
one. We've gone out, we've cleaned the shop, and I have a small list of things that I need to get done. And right now is the perfect time to do it because I have downtime to do it. And I just,
Exactly. It's hard to get started. And,
yeah,
you get to watching YouTube and reading Facebook, and the next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you've been doing that since lunchtime.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
That's-
I'm not quite feeling so alone here because when I
Good,
roll over and
yeah.
I go, oh, it's 1:30 in the
yeah, it's
morning. I
1:30,
need to
I
go
gotta
to
go.
bed.
You gotta go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been doing all the same things that everybody else does online, looking
Yeah.
at cats and getting involved in investing money and stuff like that.
What
It
is
seems,
that's a recurring theme.
Because you can.
Yeah.
Because you can.
it's all the stuff that I put off for years.
Yeah.
And now I'm retired and I have some money that I can, and also I'm not spending money. I'm just, we're not spending much money, and I got some money piling up in my checking account, wanting me to spend it on. I'm like, you can only look at Amazon so long, right?
That's true. That's
Mm.
So I want
when
to do something else with my money. I keep thinking, oh, I'm just going to invest this money that is laying around. It's not like my regular investing for retirement and living off of. This is the play money, right? That I would have spent on the SCA. I'm going to take and invest it and make it into a whole bunch more money so I can spend a whole lot more money on the SCA. Let's see.
We'll see.
well, that we've been looking at some of your travel pictures, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's one of the big spending things that we didn't get to do this year.
yeah.
And I just miss it so much.
All right.
I don't even know if we'll be able to go on a trip next year. Are they going to let Americans into their countries? I don't know.
That's a really good question, and all I can do is cross my fingers and hope.
Yep.
Because we were talking at some point taking a family trip to Europe. My oldest son.
It's wonderful to do it, and you can do it you can do it inexpensively if you know how.
Nice.
When we went, we stayed in Airbnbs. A lot of them were ones where you just had a room in someone's house rather than renting the whole house.
Mhm.
And there's one guy I remember in Vienna that he actually had converted his living room into a B&B room. He had a bed in his living room, and that was our room. He gave up his living room so that he could make a little extra money. And so we had very inexpensive B&Bs, and we took the train and buses, and God, the trains and buses are wonderful in Europe, and small planes. And we spent it was more than like 8 weeks in Europe last year. And we went to 9 different countries.
Wow.
Mhm.
So did you get a chance to visit any of the museums over there?
Lots of museums. Yeah. When we went to Paris, we went to the Louvre, and I spent my whole day in the decorative arts wing, and that's where they keep all the maiolica. And so I have a gazillion pictures of maiolica from the Louvre, as well as jewelry and glass, blown glass items. And at that time, Sir Jakob was having a lot of trouble with his hip. Since then he's had a hip surgery, and he's all better now. But he spent a lot of time in the restaurant at the Louvre. Can you imagine being at the Louvre and spending all your time in the restaurant? Poor
That
guy.
would be heartbreaking. Did you
Yes.
get a chance to see? I know, like for me, with the casting and a lot of the woodworkings, I cannot wait to go to the British Museum and
Art and Albert.
yep, you know,
Oh, I'd
because
love to go there. I haven't been to England yet.
you know,
We went to the Reykjavik, I mean, the Rijksmuseum, the whatever the big museum is in Amsterdam.
oh, okay.
I can't remember the name of it.
Maybe-
It was wonderful. That was a really great museum there. When we were in Mexico City, we went to the something like that, Soya Museum. It's this museum is like a spiral. It goes up and up and up and up, and then the top floor they have all these statues from Europe, and like Rodin statues, and there's rooms and rooms of Renaissance and medieval art, and there's a lot of Peter Bruegel paintings there.
Did you get a chance to see any illumination that maybe over the years with your scroll work that you
Well,
got?
one of the best museums for scrolls that I've been to was in the Huntington in LA, Pasadena, the Huntington in Pasadena, and of course the Getty. They also have a wonderful Maiola collection at the Getty. And I would highly recommend that. You don't have to go to Europe to find a really, really great museum.
That's awesome. Because when I think about museums, I kind of always related in the context of, the things I do in the SCA and where.
Have you been to the U of A?
No, I haven't.
The U of A has a really great, I think it's medieval collection, and they've got in their special collections in the library. It's that part of the building that's out in front before you go in the big doors at the U of A library. They've got a special collections, and they have all these books of hours there, and reproductions of books of hours that are reproduced on parchment, and they look like the real thing. And you can actually go in there and request to look at them.
Very nice.
You have to know which book you want to look at, but they've got a really nice collection there.
That's awesome. I did not know that about the U of A.
Yeah.
Something so close to home.
Resource right here.
So I've got a question here.
Oh, and if you're interested in musical instruments, ASU has the most incredible antique musical instruments collection in their museum.
Wow. Who was it? I'll think about it later. So Rain was wondering if you had gone to any SCA events when you were in other countries.
I'm afraid I haven't.
No?
No, but we moved around a lot when we first got into the SCA, and we lived in El Paso, Texas. And so I went to a lot of Outlands events, and I still go to Outlands events when I'm visiting my son, who, you know, he lives in Albuquerque with Cecilia and the kids. And then we lived up in Oregon. And so I went to a lot of on-tier events up there, but we never did get to Canada for an event.
How
So,
are the grandbabies?
oh, they're great. They're amazing.
How old are they now?
Cora, you know, they moved away when she was really little. She was probably 3 or 4 when they moved away. Well, she's turning 12 next month. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? And Sophia, who was inside Cecilia when they moved away, she is 9. And she's 9 in November.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I know. It actually, Cora's going to be 13. She's 12 now. She's going to be 13, and Sophia is 9. She's going to be 10.
I
Wow.
remember holding that
I
baby.
know she's going to be a teen.
Oh my God, no, I'm not ready. Does that count if I tell Cecilia I'm not ready?
Hey, your kid's all grown up.
No, I know. James turns 27
7.
this. No, he turns 28
He's
this
27
year.
now. Then okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember when he was a kid.
Yeah, it's just
It was like
no.
last week. Yeah.
So,
How old is your oldest daughter, Steve?
Oh, Lindsay is 19
Ah,
and in U of A going to college.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I bet she is gorgeous.
He is frighteningly gorgeous. She wants to be an ESL language teacher in Korea.
Mm.
Yeah, she's chasing that dream down. My gosh, the middle child, Aaron, is bass guitar player and going to high school. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is a freshman in high school. Annie, the little Annie.
so
Annie, I remember Annie is so cute, so small. So, oh my God.
She's not tiny anymore. She's a yep.
she brags about being an inch taller than me. She loves to stand next to me, and she never says anything. She just smiles at me, and I'm like, oh no. So, question for you here: what's it like to watch your kid grow up in the SCA and then become king?
It is so good, I'll tell you. I don't know if you remember when he was offered knighthood, but when that happened, I started crying, and I cried, and I cried. I ugly cried. I just blubbered. I wasn't like, oh, I get a little moisture in my eye or a little tiny tear. No, my face swelled up. My eyes turned all red. I was just crying and crying. It was ridiculous. Same thing happened when I was offered. And I was composed when I actually was given my laurel, but when I was offered, I lost it totally. Overcome with emotion.
I know those feels.
Yeah.
I know those feels. So, I'm gonna share my screen for a moment, and we're gonna all have a little bit of a giggle.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. Where's my preview?
Yeah, I was going to share this picture of Walrick and Cecilia.
Aw.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm very, very proud of him. My daughter, I'm very proud of her too, but she is not interested in the SCA. Um, her husband is very much into golf, professional golf. So that's their thing.
That takes up everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. To chase that dream down. Yeah.
And my sister is not in the SCA, but she's in something similar or was, which is the Highland Games and all that Scottish stuff.
That's right.
So we have a lot in common.
Let's see. There it is. I found it. Okay. Now, give me just a second because you've got to see this picture. It is just adorable. That's the only word I got for it is it's adorable.
And we'll send it to you in private, in direct message afterwards.
Let's see here. See this, I knew I was not going to get away from the technical here. All right.
Oh, that's a good one. He's on a hobby horse. That was his daughter's toy. Oh, in fact, he's got her sword too. That must have been some kind of a children's
We were just kind of it was a relaxed, chill moment at Estrella when he was crowned.
yeah.
And we kind of egged him on in doing that. He had a good time.
Oh, he loves kids. He just loves kids, always has. Even when he was a kid, he liked other little kids, babies and stuff like that.
Well, that was one of the when he showed that to me, I was like, oh, it's one of those memories you just hang on to.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was another question, and give me a moment. I'm going to scroll up. Because it was something I wanted to take us back to about your scrolls. And something about otters.
Yeah, that was a scroll that I had entered in. No, it was a Maiolica. It was a piece of Maiolica that I had entered in a competition, and I had written the documentation. And I guess I just ran it through the spell checker, and I didn't do a real good proofreading. And I kept talking about the Spanish otters, not the Spanish potters.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I was talking about the kind of kilns that the Spanish otters used.
Spanish otters used kilns.
Yeah.
I love that one. I love that. So when we are able to come back together, what's your next adventure?
I'll probably do a lot more, I don't know, stuff with my apprentices. If you're on the Zoom thing, hey, Hope. And anybody else who's out there. But we haven't, I miss getting together with people, but you can't put your heads together. Even if we got together, we'd be like, 6 feet apart, wearing masks, and you're not really going to be sitting around working closely together on a piece of artwork. So that's the sort of thing that I miss. I miss teaching at the collegiums, and I can't get into doing a Zoom collegium thing. I don't know. I should be better at this sort of thing. I'm still a bit of a old-fashioned that way. I like to do things in person.
Nothing wrong with that.
What can I say?
I'm over here shaking my head because I don't think it's that old-fashioned. I mean, I know
Well,
we all are missing that element for,
If we are not able to get out until middle of next year, I'm sure we'll get over this, and before the end of the year, we'll be used to doing stuff on Zoom or other methods. But I get a little bit camera shy, a little nervous around cameras. So
you've done great tonight. You have opened the door and let some of us see you. We see Dairine, and because for a lot of new people, it's really hard to take that step. You're watching this Laurel do these awesome things, and it is so nerve-wracking to walk up and go, I really want to see what you're doing, and try not to gush over it because you're new and this is a Laurel and I don't want to gush, because if I gush,
It's everywhere.
yeah,
well,
everywhere,
there's that intimidation factor that a lot of people have around laurels, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because what we actually look for in a laurel is not just that they're a good artist. A lot of people think that's mainly what it is, and what we believe is that the laurels, the pelicans, the knights, they are the pillars of the SCA. They are not just there as role models, but they're there to hold up the tent, hold up the edifice that is our society, and make it a welcoming place for all of the people that come in from the outside, which can be, sometimes not quite so welcoming to people that really are like us, interested in doing things ourselves with our hands, and talking about history and even philosophical things. The people that
yeah,
are the peers aren't even always the best artists. And some people say, well, how did she get to be a Laurel? That doesn't seem like, she's the best artist in the kingdom right now. The reason that sometimes someone is picked is not because of their artwork, but because of their ability to teach, to encourage others, to support the arts. I know mostly about the arts, and I'm sure it's the same over in the night circles, that they're looking for a very well-rounded person that is going to be a teacher and an organizer. That's something I would like people who are a little bit intimidated by peers to come away with, is that they were picked because they are pillars of the community. They are there for the community,
yes,
and everyone should feel welcome around them.
Amazingly
absolutely.
well put. Amazingly well put.
Do you have any advice for baby scribes who are super intimidated?
Intimidated by the art form or by the artists?
Both.
Let's start with the
Well,
art. Let's start with the art form.
I think that first of all, you don't need to have really expensive brushes, expensive paints. I often start people out with a set of Maria's watercolor. I don't start people out with gouache. You don't have to pay $6 a tube. You can pay $10 and get a whole set of paints. You can even get the kind that are in the little palettes, the little, the little dot sort of things. I don't have one out here, but basically in period, what they did was they'd mix up the paints with the period pigments, right? Period pigments. Period pigments are tempera. Remember I told you about tempera earlier? It's mixed with water and gum arabic. Well, anyhow, that is what those pans of watercolor are. It's just pigment mixed with gum arabic, and then you put a little water on them and use them. That's what they did, is they put the stuff into shells, let it dry out, and they made a palette, and it looked just like the pans of colors that you get at the store for like 20 bucks for a set of 12 different colors. So you don't need to spend a whole lot of money. The Dairine and the Kingdom will give you the paper. If you need gold leaf, if you get into that, they'll give you the gold leaf, or you can get imitation gold leaf. It's the equipment should not make it difficult. In fact, my favorite brush is an eyeliner brush. And in fact, I buy them from Wish. You get like 50 eyeliner brushes. They're disposable eyeliner brushes. And I get those and throw them away when they are not good anymore.
Fair
And
enough.
it's like 50 of them for $5, something like that. So, you know, they have lots of art supplies on wish.com and on amazon.com. So you can get started with the paints and stuff really cheap. And they're just as good as they were in period, because they had crap in period. Once you get over that sort of thing, then and also you treat your stuff like, hey, if you screw it up, you can throw it away. It's cheap. You can throw it away. You can start over. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. Well, Mr. Dairine, we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for opening your world to us, you know, and letting us get to know you a little bit better.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And thank you for inviting me over to have this nice conversation in your home.
This has been great. This has been fabulous. And I have really enjoed it. And I still forgot to fix the banner behind me.
I hope it hasn't been bothering people.
I've gone this entire time and was like, I still didn't fix the banner.
Which one do we need to fix?
It's
I
wrong.
didn't even notice. Okay, well, it's been a pleasure. I will see you in the future on your next interview.
Absolutely. You have a fabulous night. All right. So we're going to live stream. Don't forget to join us in 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
October 1st. We will have Her Grace, Master Elzbieta, the Constant, will be joining us. This time we don't have to chase her all over a field to have a conversation with her. This is going to be awesome. So we look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for supporting us with this Ysgithr Allthing. You guys have a great night.